Bonaventure listeners, are you ready for the greatest show ever?
I'm certainly ready. I haven't put my seatbelt on yet, but
Well, you got to have a seatbelt.
I'm preparing. Hold on. Where's my seatbelt, Keith?
So this is the greatest hits show. It may not always be, hey, these are only the top ones, but it's our top ones.
Well, and there are different reasons that greatest hits get released.
Yeah.
We were just talking about it before the show, and I said we need to shut up and talk about it during the show. But it can fulfill a contractual obligation that the band has with the record company. It can be in support of a tour that's coming up, so the record company pumps out the greatest hits from that band and kind of gets the word out there more. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons. But I was just talking about why I love greatest hits so much. And it's because when I have an artist like Miles Davis who has 800 releases.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy to just go to the shelf and pull out the greatest hits and put it on instead of like thumbing through multiple releases to hear, the best songs.
And, probably record companies, because they can release a greatest hits without express consent from the band to make more money, fulfill contracts, like you said, or even promote tours.
Right.
So sometimes greatest hits albums come out and bands are not all that happy.
Well, yeah. I mean, you would like to believe that whoever the band is and whoever the label is are working in tandem to put it together, but sometimes it's only done by the label.
Yeah.
And without the band's needing approval. So it can be a mixed bag, but I do love greatest hits. Every show we go to, I see people buying greatest hits. And, there may be some snobbery out there about it, not necessarily being in an official release. I know some people turn their nose down at them, but it's like I said, it's a great way in one package to listen to the arc of most artists.
Yeah, and in this first one I have up the Eagles' greatest hits from, was it 71 to 75?
Yeah.
This thing is number 2 on, from the data I have of the
biggest
best-selling
selling
albums of all time. Number 1, Thriller.
Yeah.
Number 2,
yeah.
This.
Number 3, probably the one we talk about in every episode, Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, I'm sure they go back and forth.
It's way up there. But, the funny thing is, when this came out, Don Henley was not happy.
Didn't want to do a greatest hits.
Well, he didn't have a choice.
But what was he not happy about?
He didn't want to do a greatest hits. Like you said, there's a lot of snobbery to greatest hits.
I bet he goes to his mailbox, every month or two and gets that check and realizes, boy, that greatest hits was a great idea.
Well, he said it was a ploy by the record company to make money without paying production. But then upon learning that it was the best-selling album in U.S. history at one point, he thanked the fans and the crew and everybody who pretty much made the Eagles a success in the 70s.
Yeah, man, those dudes.
They ruled the 70s.
Oh, they ruled the 70s, but man, I don't know. It's so strange that a band that's basically comprised of 2 dudes as ruthless as Glenn Frey and Don Henley. It's another one of those things that don't fit together.
Yeah.
Peaceful, Easy Feeling, all these, Southern rock kind of songs. Some people consider it easy listening. The dude fucking hates the Eagles, but I don't know. Everything you hear about them dealing with people, it's like they were just ruthless.
Yeah. And some of these early Eagle albums I've actually owned at different times, but I'd rather have this on.
Yeah.
And I've had this since high school. I've had it for years.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great collection. And then the volume 2 is also a great collection. And I think in the current Walmart version puts volume 1 and 2 together in a 2 record set, which is really great. I mean, still like $30-something. But yeah.
If you're getting the greatest, you got to pay.
Right. But it's a great way to like throw the Eagles on and just go through their entire career.
Have a peaceful and easy feeling.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you have, certain Lucky Charms desserts or
in your system.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Let me turn this around real quick.
Well, and that's the other thing about greatest hits albums. The song titles are 99% of the time on the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right there for everybody to see.
Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, Lion Eyes, Already Gone, Desperado, One of These Nights, Tequila Sunrise, Take It to the Limit, Peaceful Easy Feeling, and Best of My Love. It's a great record, man.
And we've talked about it before, so we don't have to beat up this record.
We don't have to belabor it.
No.
No, that's a good way to start though, because I think that if there is a greatest hits that most people have,
it's this
it's
one.
probably this one. So cool, man. That's great. I tried to bring records that I haven't talked about before, but I know that this has been talked about before, but it's just a fantastic greatest hits. We've been talking about leaving the tags on. I bought this from Half Price Books in March of 2007 when records did not exist anymore, okay? And it was $5.
I love that you left the tag on. I mean, I need to start doing that, but it kind of bothers me having them on.
It's definitely something that, other than being able to look at it and see those details, it would be gone. What I hate is when stickers are put on album jackets that
On the
do
cardboard, because
do
those
not come
little
off.
bitty stickers don't come off very well.
These you can kind of get off reasonably easily, and you can use lighter fluid or whatever. I don't need my already flammable records to be more flammable than they already are. But anyway, this is Endless Summer by the Beach Boys. And reading about this, it's kind of interesting. It was released in June of 1974, and it's a collection of hits from the band's 62 to 65 period. It basically came out because of the success of American Graffiti, because Beach Boys had a couple songs on that soundtrack, and that soundtrack blew up and then brought about this kind of throwback to the 50s and 60s, and that's basically why they released this record.
Well, and the other thing it did, when this came out, it took the Beach Boys from being an opening act, because they were kind of on the downward slide, to headlining concerts in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this is a important one to me because friend of the show, Bill Hayes, his dad always had this playing, whether it was in the garage on 8-track
really?
Or whatever. So, and he had a poster from it, like a promotional poster with an airplane and a message flying behind it that said the Beach Boys Endless Summer. It holds a special place in my heart as like one of the first greatest hits albums that I paid a lot of attention to. I can read you some of the songs on it. We've got Surfin' Safari, Surfer Girl, Catch a Wave, The Warmth of the Sun, Surfin' USA, Be True to Your School, Little Deuce Coupe, In My Room, Shut Down, Fun, 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 I Get Around, Girls on the Beach, Wendy, Let Him Run Wild, Don't Worry Baby, California Girls, Girl Don't Tell Me, Help Me Rhonda, You're So Good to Me, and All Summer Long.
That's the Beach Boys
It's
right there. Yeah.
Quite a collection of the Beach Boys. How long have I had it now? 17, like 15 years?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's always been one of my favorite collections, and like I said, it holds a dear place in my heart as far as greatest hits go. What's your next one, John?
So one of the first records that I got when I was in high school was Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. And backing up to Greatest Hits, I mean, it was when you don't have a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
It was a great way to, hey, I'm going to experience this artist.
Yeah.
And I've got something without, going out and buying 5 albums, which I didn't have money for.
It's easy. It's an easy way to dip your toe
Yeah.
into an artist, especially if you aren't terribly familiar with that artist.
Well, I knew Dylan and I love Dylan,
Yeah.
but I didn't have lots of cash.
Yeah. And these were hard to shoplift back in the day.
There was no music sharing in those days.
No.
Well, you might have it. You might get a cassette from somebody. Oh,
Yeah.
here's my mixtape.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great record. Rainy Day Women, number 12, Blowing in the Wind, The Times They Are a-Changin', It Ain't Me, Babe, Subterranean, Homesick Blues, Mr. Tambourine Man, Like a Rolling Stone, I Want You, Positively 4th Street, and Just Like a Woman. It's a great collection. I've always loved the cover.
Yeah.
It's such a cool, like, backlit
Oh, yeah.
shot of Bob's afro as he's playing the harmonica there. It's very cool. What's on the back? Oh, it's just another one.
Yeah.
Like
and we get more. The song titles twice.
I love
It shows you all the albums
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
That's so cool. No, that's a good one too. When we talked about doing this, I thought about, that'd be a good one to grab. Guess what? I don't have it.
You don't have it.
No. I'm not a huge Bob fan,
Yeah.
but he's another one. He's a perfect artist for me to get the greatest hits because I'm not going to be a completist when it comes to Bob.
I have a bunch of Bob stuff. There's a couple. I don't have Blonde on Blonde it would have been on my essentials, but I just don't have it yet.
I have Blonde on Blind and Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah, I have Blood. I picked up an original of Blood on the Tracks at a show. It's not my favorite period of Bob, but
And he's an interesting artist because there are some he went born again Christian for those years in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, and I saw him on that tour and I was upset because he wouldn't do Like a Rolling Stone.
Oh man. Why not?
Because it was against
his religion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey man, it's Bob Dylan.
Whatever works, Bob.
Yeah, do what you. Obviously, it's been working for a while now. That's a good record. This is a great record.
Ooh.
John and I, before we hit record, were talking about, I have come to love Tom Petty even more as I've gotten older, and the wildflower, all the stories with wildflowers, and there's a lot of crazy stuff that went on there. John is less and less like into Tom Petty, but for somebody who's less and less into Tom Petty, again, this is a perfect collection.
It's a great entry.
Yeah, I mean, this covers the gamut of the best songs of the band. I love this picture of them on the back.
That is a good picture.
Sitting on a couch.
And it's a double LP too.
Yeah, it's double 180 gram. This came out. I want to say. Well, let me look at it. This came out in 1993, and it's Petty's best-selling album to date and certified 12 times platinum. The single Mary Jane's Last Dance is a new song on this.
That's another thing record companies do often to help, hey, we want to sell this collection, but to help push it, they'll put like a rare single or a live track.
Or a brand new song.
That
they record for it, which is what they did with this. And they did Mary Jane's Last Dance and Something in the Air, which is a Thunderclap Newman.
Ooh.
Is the one. I don't know where the hell that came from.
You got a Thunderclap Newman moment.
I did. But yeah, that's what they'll do. They'll record new songs, or they'll have live songs. Or, like you said, B-sides. I'm not going to run down the list of songs.
No, there's a boatload of great songs.
And that's the crazy thing about this one. When it came out, Mary Jane's Last Dance became a hit. And it was the extra song that they threw on the greatest hits. So it's a great collection. And, Tom has a lot of stuff out there. And buying it new, it's not necessarily cheap. Buying original pressings is not necessarily cheap. I mean, when somebody like that passes away, their stock at least,
it starts going up.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look at this, kind of the best-selling albums of all time, the top 25 are littered with greatest hits. I mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, gosh, you've got stuff like ABBA Gold, Marley and the Wailers Legend.
Oh, that's a good one.
Madonna, the Immaculate Collection.
Yeah. I don't have that one either.
No, I don't have that.
I don't
one
have any of those three.
I have a Legend.
Yeah.
I may have. I've got some sort of ABBA greatest hits that I bought for $1.
$1 American.
$1
Yeah, I love it. The cover's different. Originally, the cover was a different picture, but I really like this one. It's kind of
That's
cool.
the one that I think of when I think of this album. Is that picture?
Yeah. I think the original cover's right there.
Oh.
I worked in a record store when this came out originally on CD, and we would get the boxes of it and just leave them up by the register and just dish them out because they were selling them.
Yeah,
that
they were
many.
selling like hotcakes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So,
well, and that's the other thing with greatest hits albums. They sell like crazy.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad move. Nobody puts out a greatest hits record that does terrible.
Probably not,
Yeah.
unless it's just an artist that never sold any records in the first place. But yeah, it's one of my favorite greatest hits for sure.
That's a good one. You know who's attributed with kind of starting the greatest hits phenomenon?
I have no idea.
Johnny Mathis.
Really?
He did a greatest hits released in 58.
Wow.
And then the 60s, I don't know, there weren't a bunch of greatest hits in the 60s. Maybe the Supremes. Motown was doing
Yeah.
a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because I've had a couple of Supremes collections. And that's another word, collections.
Yeah.
Essentials.
Essentials.
That's, I can't remember if it's Warner or Sony, but one of them came out with their Essentials.
Yeah.
And that was a good marketing ploy.
I think the Essential collections, like the Essential Foo Fighters, that's a new one that I've seen out. I think that's Sony.
I think
Sony,
it is Sony.
RCA,
Yeah.
Columbia. Yeah. But I mean, greatest hits isn't used as much anymore
No.
for sure. And that's just a marketing thing as much as anything else.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, the Johnny Mathis.
Yeah.
Do you think that when they were talking about putting that greatest hits out, he went into a meeting with a bunch of record executives and said, "Chances are that I'll sell a greatest hits"? I probably won't leave that in.
Yeah. That was nice.
Johnny Mathis impressions aren't exactly timely. What's next on your greatest hits parade, John?
Next on the greatest hits parade, I'm kind of I'm not staying. I'm starting with stuff that I had when I originally started buying albums. When I was in high school.
Cool. That's cool.
So the next one would be
man.
The Who's greatest hits.
What a cool cover too.
Yeah. And I mean, I still don't have a broad bunch of Who stuff.
Who?
Who?
Oh, you don't have any Dr. Seuss stuff?
Oh, I was doing owls. Who?
Nice Hooters.
Yeah. But, and one thing with the older greatest hits, I mean, a lot of them were single albums.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't doubles.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not because the bands didn't have enough stuff to cover doubles. It was just I think record companies were more behind greatest hits
Right.
than the bands.
Right.
And
Originally.
so this is a good way to bring in a bunch of money.
Yeah, I mean, basically you're taking existing music and packaging it differently and reselling it. I mean, that's the ultimate in marketing.
Yeah.
Right. But this one's great. It's got Substitute, The Seeker, Magic Bus, which is one of your favorites, right?
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
My Generation, Pinball Wizard, Happy Jack, Won't Get Fooled Again, My Wife, Squeeze Box, The Relay, 515, Love Rain O'er Me, and Who Are You? I mean,
And the fun thing with this is it has both the early Who and the later Who.
yeah, that's great. It kind of
So,
collects from both ends
it's
of
a
the spectrum.
and you've got the Union Jack right there.
Union Jacket.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say was, when you think about it, though, they were single records because back in the probably 60s, 70s, you're talking about songs that are 2 to 3 minutes long.
Oh, yeah.
And now you think of an artist like Tom Petty, who, as he went further in his career, the songs got longer.
Right.
So obviously you're going to fit less on one record. from
Yeah.
longer songs. There's probably a whole science and a whole thought process around putting these together. It would be interesting to talk to a record exec that has some experience with that, because I'd love to pick their brains about, what goes into that.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing in the CD era, a lot of bands started to release these box sets, which were massive greatest hits, massive collections of their whole catalog. I've got a bunch of CD box sets.
Yeah.
And it was pretty all encompassing,
Yeah.
because there'd be 4 or 5 CDs in a box set.
Yeah. And they still do those. I mean, and
Yeah.
those are great. Now they've started implementing vinyl and including both CD, vinyl, Blu-ray, and kind of making it an all-encompassing greatest hits or box set.
Yeah.
They're just so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Any box set with vinyl is just expensive.
Yeah. Who?
Greatest hits. This is one of my favorite records. Just because of the shape. It's almost, I don't know how many sides it is. Is it octagonal, maybe? It's Rolling Stones
Sure.
Through the Past Darkly, Big Hits Volume 2. And, we've talked about the Stones. John's talked about the Stones and their role that they were on with just great album after great album. This is kind of a collection of songs from that era.
Yeah.
The 70s era Stones are really, really dear to my heart. There's something about them got so like reckless and kind of dangerous feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And that music is great. So listen to this. You got Honky Tonk Women, Ruby Tuesday, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Paint It Black, Street Fightin' Man, Have You Seen Your Mother, Baby, Standing in the Shadow, Let's Spend the Night Together, 2,000 Light Years from Home, Mother's Little Helper, She's a Rainbow, and Dandelion. I love the fact that let's make an 8-sided album cover.
Yeah,
And
it's
won't
always
fit that won't fit in any bag.
It's always been an interesting album cover.
Yeah, yeah. It's great. I mean, it's certainly not practical, but what about record collecting is practical?
True. Well, it's funny because when the legendary Stones album, the greatest hits album, the double,
Hot Rocks.
Hot Rocks.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was blanking. That album, the Stones were strictly against.
Oh, were they?
Oh yeah,
Oh, I
they
didn't know
weren't.
that.
They didn't want Hot Rocks to come out,
Interesting.
and it went on to be a massive seller.
Yeah. I just acted like this was like 70s era Stones. It's really not, because this was released in September of 1969. So they're
I was gonna say some of these songs are.
yeah. I just brain farted there. But so think about that. The band basically started in 62, and this is 1969 and their second greatest hits. So obviously greatest
So
hits.
that one came out in '69.
That's what it says, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Released September 1969 by Decca in the UK and London Records, Abco Records in the US.
Yeah, I was thinking some of the songs that I'm like, wait a minute. I know that's an older song. So yeah.
Yeah. Anywho, the Stones still putting out new music. I think they may be working on a new album now. So, obviously
Grandpa Mick's gotta have his cash.
great Grandpa
Yeah.
Mick. This is a great record. I've as collecting has gone on for me, I've becoming familiar with more Stone stuff. I've really gained a new appreciation for them, because it always seems like people want to pit the Stones and the Beatles against each other, and I think they're just completely different bands from every angle. But the biggest one, and we talked about it in Keith's show about the Beatles and the album, is you really can feel that album feeling with the Beatles. I mean,
Yeah.
and part of that is probably because people have listened to the albums so much, that, and the whole albums, that listening to songs out of order or in a collection just is jarring. I always thought that the Stones were a great singles band. I mean, I don't think they have as many great albums as the Beatles, but they have great songs on albums. So it isn't quite as jarring for me to listen to a Stones collection, because that's kind of how I always listen to the Stones anyway. But yeah, what's next on the?
Well, we're gonna stay classic, because this was another group I was really into in high school, and I picked up the Doors' greatest hits. And I have a lot of Doors stuff since then. I have all their albums on vinyl, and a bunch of them. Oh, you've got the same one.
I brought
we
the
should have
same
talked.
one. Yeah, no, that we both have it.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't even think you'd.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise.
Such a great band.
Yeah.
Like, Keith and I were here yesterday setting up, and I think Light My Fire. I can't remember what song came on, but I was like, the older I get, man, the more I appreciate the Doors, because when you listen back to them now, they don't sound like anybody.
There really hasn't been any Doors copycats.
No.
It's totally different.
There are some people that I think sound like Jim.
Yeah.
Like Ian Astbury from The Cult.
Oh, yeah.
I think he sounds like Jim. I feel like Glenn Danzig has kind of a Morrison kind of feel to his voice. But
Glenn's not going to bring an organ into the mix.
Unless it's a satanic organ. Wait a minute. That's a new band name. The thing about the Doors is, I think when you hear them, they're identifiable as like the 60s. When I hear
absolutely.
them, I'm like, oh man, that they kind of encapsulated the 60s somehow, and it emanates from their music. But I still don't think that, I never hear a song and I'm like, boy, I wonder if that's the Doors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the Doors when the Doors pop on.
And to be that identifiable in the midst of just the music scene exploding in that time, that's pretty special.
Yeah. And the Doors for me at least, I like everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a little bit like Pink Floyd, where every single song I like.
Yeah, I haven't dug into the post-Morrison records.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff, I'm not, I don't know. It'd be nice to listen to it a little more, but to me, that's not really the Doors.
Because somebody was talking recently about one of the releases, and I can't remember the name, but both Manzarek and Robbie Krieger on one of the records sang lead.
I think is that Other Voices?
I don't think it's Other Voices, but I think Other Voices had like guest vocalists, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or something like
that.
Like, it's great. Talk about something that you don't know about. Awesome. But I think that one thing about the Doors, that if you extract it, it's not the Doors anymore, it's Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a groundbreaking statement, but it's absolutely true. I mean, nobody sounds like him.
Well, and the Doors, this is several years out. The Doors were still getting played on radio. Well, they still are now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of head scratching.
Well, classic rock radio, if it does anything well, it takes good music and just drives it into the damn ground.
Yeah. But I think because some of the Doors songs, they didn't have a lot of short radio friendly songs.
Right.
So
other than Light My Fire.
Yeah. So they didn't get played a lot on the radio.
Yeah.
They were sprinkled in.
Yeah. I think a lot changed too after the movie, the Oliver Stone movie.
Yeah.
That sent them to a whole new
stratosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And brought in a whole new audience.
Right. The one thing that I appreciate about the Doors is that individual sound, and you can hear between the keyboards and the guitar. I mean, there are elements of jazz and different types of music in their music.
Yeah.
And I think they're one of the first pop bands to be able to take those things, blend them in, and still keep them identifiable when you hear them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an awesome call. And there was a 2-disc version of that came out on CD, I think in the late 80s.
I have a Doors box set that is phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
There are a bunch of live stuff.
Yeah.
Really unusual live. I mean, they sound really good. I mean, that's one thing with the vinyl, kind of the new vinyl revolution. They'll drum up a live show that just sounds like garbage. But that was one good thing with a lot of CD releases. They wouldn't put bad sounding stuff out on CD.
No. And a lot of stuff just from, the early days of bringing music into the digital world. I mean, you could sweeten a lot of stuff, especially when you consider, there's nothing touching it. You can play it 100,000 times.
Yeah.
We are at a time in vinyl where there's a lot of opportunists,
yes,
putting things out. So while there's a lot more to choose from and a lot more to spend all your money on, you definitely have to kind of do your research. If you're talking about a live album from a band that wasn't really a huge band, you might want to make sure that if it's been released before, if people were happy with that, the way it sounded and all of that stuff. But, we've expected this wave to start crashing for 5 years.
And it just keeps hitting the shore.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What's next?
My next one
Ooh, yeah.
is
I had that at one time.
A really, really good one. It's Donovan's Greatest Hits, from Scottish singer-songwriter Donovan, released in the U.S. January 1969 on Epic Records.
Oh, and this is a We Are vinyl, too.
Yeah. There's something about Donovan, man. He was another one. He was one of those, heartthrobs that just seemed so different, But you got Mellow Yellow, Sunshine Superman, Hurdy-Gurdy Man, Epistle to Dippy, Where Your Love, Like Heaven, Jennifer Juniper, Colors, Catch the Wind, There's a Mountain, Season of the Witch, Lalina. Season of the Witch is a great song. It's an awesome song. Yeah, he's just great. This is Sony Legacy. So I don't know when this press came out. 2017. So this is already 5 years old. But I always thought that the cover was strange too, because he's kind of backlit and you can't really make him out real well.
But as I think Pat Hurley talked about how big Donovan was.
Yeah.
For the whole people who experienced the early Beatles, Donovan was like the next guy.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy to think of that. And obviously he didn't just shoot to the top like the Beatles did, but for a moment, he was that dude. I always saw this when I was a kid. I would always see it in people's record collections, and I didn't really know that much about it. And so I would hear Mellow Yellow. It's funny. Mellow Yellow, Yellow Submarine. They kind of became novelty type songs almost, but any song with color in it like that, it had my attention. But Season of the Witch, I had never heard that before. That's just
it's a spooky song.
It's spooky, but it's very, very cool.
Yeah.
And I've just always loved the way, if you listen to it on vinyl, it just sounds like you should be listening to it that way. So I had to bring this one. Like I said,
that's
I think
a good one.
4 or 5 years ago. And I probably haven't listened to it more than 2 or 3 times.
And I think that's one of the reasons I got rid of mine, because it wasn't in great shape. It's like, I'll find a better one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, for greatest hits, there's a good chance that if you're looking for music from an artist and you are looking at a greatest hits record, the greatest hits record's probably been played a lot.
Yeah.
For the reasons that we talked about earlier. So
Either played a lot or not much.
right, yeah,
I mean, there's not much in between
yeah.
with those.
Yeah, man. What's next?
Let's see. All right, so because I know for a fact this is one you're not gonna have. Motley Crue's greatest hits.
Hey, I have not bought it, but it is a great collection for sure.
Yeah, and the whole reason I bought this is because there's probably no way in hell I'm gonna buy any single Motley Crue record.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my entry.
Yeah.
And that's enough. That's enough of a taste. I'm happy with that taste.
Yeah, I mean, if it's somebody that you're just lukewarm on,
yeah.
you know, there was a time before The Dirt came out, and I think The Dirt came out in 19, maybe 20. There was a time when you could get this for like $15.
And I think that's when I got it.
Yeah, and it's a double LP.
Yeah.
Um,
We don't have to run through every single thing.
no, but everything that you would want to hear from
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue is on this. And there's some new songs. The last 3 songs are new songs.
See, I would have never known that.
Well, actually, I mean, they were If I Die Tomorrow. Saints of Los Angeles is from the album Saints of Los Angeles, which I think came out in 2008. That's a good Motley Crue record. And then The Animal in Me is a remix. But they always throw that extra thing in there.
yeah, to say, hey, for you completists, you want this?
Yeah, because you might have all these songs 6 times over, but there's another song at the end. You know, genius marketing. That's a great collection. I've never, since we have the camera set up for Gatefold, I'm going to open it. Well, of course, it's the opposite way. But there's like a drawing of them and, you know, some
bunch of liner notes
and bio stuff. Yeah, it's a great record. I mean, anytime that you can get a 2-album
set of a band, yeah,
and it's $15 or so. Now the price for all their stuff's kind of gone.
It's gone through the roof.
Well, yeah, between The Dirt, that kind of rekindled people's relationship with Motley Crue,
And the Pamela and Tommy Lee thing.
the Pam and Tommy thing, but then also the stadium tour that they did with Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett, and all that stuff. That's kind of sent them, both bands, Def Leppard and Motley Crue, through the roof. So I would not have expected to see that. But again, it's a perfect example. You're not going to buy their whole discography.
Yeah.
But $15 purchase is perfect.
Yeah, perfect. I've got the taste,
Yeah.
and I'm happy.
Yeah, it does have like the big tunes. You got Looks That Kill, Too Young to Fall in Love. I don't see
Girls.
Girls, Shout at the Devil. You know, I mean, everything you need. And then stuff through Dr. Feelgood. So, yeah, that's a good one, man.
Yeah. I brought
Very
that
cool.
one to kind of pay homage to you.
Well, I'm going to stay kind of in the same era.
Oh, yeah.
Guns N' Roses' greatest hits. This was released March 23rd, 2004, Geffen Records. In part, released by Geffen Records in part because of the delay in making Chinese Democracy. The album was subject to lawsuits by band member Axl Rose and former band members in an attempt to block its release due to its track listing. So there you go.
They were upset about the track listing.
I guess so, yeah. I don't know the full story behind it, but
that is a trip.
Well, when you think about Guns N' Roses, really, they've got, you know, they can sell out any arena, stadium in the world, and basically they've got 2 records. One, Appetite, and then Use Your Illusion, which is 2 albums.
Yeah.
And they had a GNR Lies, which was a mini EP. But how many bands are still that huge and touring on what amounts to 2 records?
Yeah, they don't have a big breadth of work.
Right. And it's crazy. I think that speaks volumes to how big Appetite for Destruction was. And I could, as a kid that like was coming of age at that time, you know, in 87, I was 13. I could feel that they were becoming a big band.
Yeah.
Because you had reminders everywhere as a kid, because you had MTV, and I think MTV brought bands like this more to the forefront in popular culture, just because it was on all the time, and it was kind of like a radio station. You're seeing them, you're hearing them, and then of course that extra exposure, you know, you would hear the good and the bad things about the band, and there were plenty of bad things.
Well, and I mean that doesn't hurt a rock and roll band.
No, it's almost, you know, that maybe there is no bad press.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to me that they are still out there doing it, and basically based on 2 albums.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing to me.
Yeah,
is that they don't have this big catalog, but they're still selling plenty of records.
yeah. And when we saw them here in Indy, what was that, 21?
Yeah.
Or 2 years ago?
Was it 21? Yeah, well,
Something,
anyhow, yeah.
something like that. I mean, it's kind of the Slash show.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, he is the focal point in that band. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people in the band, but it's just Slash is the dude. And he's super cool. You know, he's kind of the antithesis of Axl Rose.
Yeah.
But Axl isn't doing all the shit that he got bad press for in the 80s now either. I mean, there were stories of, and I didn't see them back then, but there were stories of him, you know, and riots because of him not wanting to come on for 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours after they're supposed to.
They came on right on time.
Yep. Well, you know, everybody grows up sometimes.
Yeah, he had to grow up.
So it's interesting that this is on like silver, white, and black splattered vinyl. This is a Walmart press. You know, and again, it's not like you have to sift through a lot of records to listen to Guns N' Roses, because like we just said, they don't have a huge discography, but it is cool to just throw a record on and hear the hits.
Yeah.
You know.
And I saw they had a cover on there because Sympathy for the Devil.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of their version of that, but it's a great song.
They love covering stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's cool. Bands that become that huge to pay homage to the bands that kind of got you there. That's really cool.
It's no Wichita Lineman. But
no,
hey.
no. Yeah, that was an interesting choice. What's the next record in your?
Next, you know, I'm gonna keep my surprises coming.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Black Sabbath. We sold our souls for rock and roll.
That's a great one.
And this is another band that I'm probably not going to dive into their catalog, but this one, I'm like, I'd kind of looked for a few times, and then there was a good deal on it, so I bought it new. And I really like this record.
Yeah.
I mean, I did not expect to like it as much as I do, but I really like it.
It's so good.
So it makes
I don't have this.
So it makes me want to go back and get some of the other stuff.
The first 5
Yeah.
Sabbath records are probably essential to most people.
Yeah, I had a used copy of Paranoid, and I'd listened to it a couple of times, but I'm like, I moved it.
Yeah. Let's look at the track listing on here. So Black Sabbath, The Wizard, Warning, Paranoid, War Pigs, Iron Man, Wicked World, Tomorrow's Dream, Fairies Wear Boots, Changes, Sweet Leaf, Children of the Grave. That's probably my favorite Sabbath song. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Am I Going Insane, Laguna Sunrise, Snowblind, and Nativity in Black. Just a great cross-section of that classic.
It's a really fun record that I didn't expect to like as much as I do. But I mean, there's sometimes I'll just like, I'm in the mood for some Sabbath.
Sabbath is so kind of off the radar, right? I mean, Ozzy is everywhere.
Yeah.
Ozzy and Sharon are everywhere, whatever. But I think the thing that stands out about Sabbath when you listen to them with ears from today You literally hear this music and you're like, these guys invented heavy metal. And you know what I mean? I don't think that people had that attitude back in the late 60s, early 70s when they came out.
Right.
But listening to it with today's ears, they are so singular in creating that music. And it's very impressive. I mean, Tony Iommi is just a riff machine. And the whole band is great. I saw them on the 13 tour, their farewell tour. Bill Ward wasn't playing drums, but they were great live too. I've seen them a couple of times with Ozzy. I never saw them with Ronnie, and that's another crazy thing about Black Sabbath. They've had like 6, 7, 8 singers, but when you think about how big they had become with Ozzy, and then Ronnie James Dio comes in and they do Heaven and Hell, and that album was almost as big as anything else they did. And then they followed that up with Mob Rules. I mean, they're a fantastic band.
I'm not sure which tour, but I think I saw them on. No, I know I saw them, but I just don't know what tour. I think it was Mob Rules because Alvin Lee opened.
Oh, okay.
And a really good friend of mine wanted to see Alvin Lee.
Yeah.
So we went, and we probably didn't stay for all Black Sabbath, but
yeah, that's awesome.
So I kind of saw Black Sabbath
with Ronnie then, if it was Mob Rules.
When it would have been 87, 80.
No, Mob Rules was like 83 or 4. So.
Oh, so yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was probably later than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably 87.
That's awesome though. You may have seen them with one of the many other singers.
One of the many other singers.
That's awesome. That's great. I haven't like searched for this, but I think I'm going to now.
Well, and you have a bunch of Sabbath.
Yeah. Well, I've got like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, this is a really fun record.
I'll have to give that a try. Now, we've talked about these guys.
Oh.
This is another one of those like bands that sneaks up on you. Like,
yes.
Like how many hits they actually have. And they've got a lot of records, So a best of, I paid 99 cents for this. what looks like 2009. Yeah. But it's the best of the doobies. And most doobies are good,
Yeah.
Right? China Grove, Long Train Runnin', Taking It to the Streets, Listen to the Music, Blackwater, Rockin' Down the Highway, Jesus Is Just All Right, It Keeps You Running, South City, Midnight Lady, Take Me in Your Arms, and Without You.
That's a great collection.
Tom Johnson and Michael McDonald eras kind of mushed into one.
Yeah.
When John and I saw these guys, we've talked about it before, but we saw these guys at a gig that we were working, and we were literally standing there going, they're just, it's all hits.
Yeah.
And it, they've done a lot of other stuff that hasn't been hits, but man, they've got a lot of really great songs.
They sure do.
They sound great in concert.
Yeah. And, that's one thing. I know you bought this back when vinyl wasn't king, but greatest hits albums, when you buy them used, are not terribly expensive.
No, not usually.
Because they're just not the most sought after, but as we've talked, it's a great entry into a band.
Yeah.
And you can pick them up for a reasonable price.
Yeah. And, it can go either way, like we said, how they were treated, because for some people, those are going to be the go-tos. You don't have to get 4 or 5 albums out to listen to songs. You can just get one. But then other people, maybe those completist people or the album people, which I'm kind of a mix of both. I love listening to an entire album, but I also like to pick and choose. And that was always the digital music is always good for that. A lot of times I have a lot of music on my phone. A lot of times I'll just hit random.
Yeah, I love random.
Yeah.
And something will pop up. It's like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, what the hell is that? But the Doobies have always been a band that I love, and I love both eras. I think they're still doing their 50th anniversary tour this coming summer. So
Good job, fellas.
Yeah, I'd love to see them again.
Yeah.
That'd be very cool. And I also love the like diner table side jukebox
Yeah.
on the cover. Yeah, it's very
One
cool.
of those would be fun to pick up sometime.
Yeah, it would.
A tableside jukebox, because you're not going to dump up. I'm assuming you can find one for not a bundle.
Well, when we did the jukebox show,
Yeah.
He was talking about that all of these had a line running from them to the main jukebox
Oh, okay.
in restaurants and diners and stuff.
That's neat that you remember. I don't remember that.
No? Well, you may have been, on a Lucky Charms treat high
Yeah, I
at that
could have been.
point. What's next for you?
Next. All right, let's see. Another band that I'm not going to want everything by, Leonard Skinner. And, this is Collected.
Collected.
That's another good name for it.
Yeah.
Collected.
Yeah. They are a great band to have a collection from, for sure.
Yeah, because it's just somebody I don't want everything from.
Right. Is this music on vinyl? It says MOV.
Yeah, it is.
Number 516. Oh, and then, you have it in there backwards because the gold label's on the back.
Oh, wow.
I love those gold labels, man. I'll put that up here so we can talk about the songs. Need All My Friends, I've Been Your Fool, Freebird, Tuesday's Gone, Sweet Home Alabama, Don't Ask No Questions, Working for MCA. That's such an interesting song. That's like a big FU to MCA Records. Call Me the Breeze, Saturday Night Special. We don't need to talk about all the songs.
Yeah, we don't have to go through them all.
But, it's 4 sides of a band's catalog.
Yeah.
It's great.
And it seems like I'm betting that I've picked up a couple of MOV presses through eBay retailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the MOVs, man, they know how to do it.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I've never seen this.
It was, they have a greatest hits version.
Yeah.
That's not an MOV version.
And I think is it a single record?
It may be a
record.
single because it's an older greatest hits album.
Yeah. I feel like the greatest hits, like you said, were more single records back in the 70s and 80s than they are now.
Yeah, because this one, let's see, when did it come out? It looks like 2018.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the Collected series and the Essential series in the last 4 or 5 years seem to be the ones that record
People
companies
are going,
putting out there. That's great. That's a great call. I don't have any Allman Brothers greatest hits, unfortunately, but that would be another great band to get a greatest hits from.
I've got a CD box set of the Allman Brothers.
Oh, do you? Cool.
And it even has their early stuff as the Almond Joy.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'd love some of those box sets to be on CD.
Yeah.
You just don't see them.
You mean on vinyl?
On vinyl, sorry.
Yeah. Man, and that's the thing about the box sets, the Van Halen thing that's coming out for RSD, it's $100.
Yeah.
It's 4 records. It's like 27 songs or 28 songs, but $100. I mean, I remember when I used to get a CD, if I got a CD for $12 and under, I thought I was stealing it.
Yeah.
And now if you get a record for like $19-20, you feel like you're stealing it, which they've got us trained for sure.
They got us hooked.
Okay, the next one.
Oh.
One we don't talk about that often. It's the Byrds' greatest hits. And this is obviously Columbia Records. You got the pictures of the dudes on here. And what we talk about all the time is the list of songs on the front.
Yeah.
Mr. Tambourine Man, I'll Feel a Whole Lot Better, The Bells of Rimney, Turn, 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 All I Really Want to Do, Chimes of Freedom, 8 Miles High, Mr. Spaceman. What's this? 5D, Fifth Dimension. So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, and My Back Pages, which My Back Pages is probably my favorite Byrds tune.
That is a good pickup because that's a band that That's how I'd want to hear them.
They're huge. I mean, they're such a big part of popular music. You know, they were right
And popular music in the 60s.
Yeah, in the 60s, and right at the front of like the bands starting to tour and stadium touring and stuff. And obviously Crosby left to do CSN and CSNY. But they're such a good band. And a lot of their stuff, their guitar sounds and stuff, sound very similar to me. It's easy to, like, when you hear Roger McGuinn, it's easy to say, oh, that's the Byrds.
That's the Byrds, yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I have anything from them other than this greatest hits.
That's the one to have.
Yeah, yeah. And they have on the back, you know, you've got album covers and then the bio stuff. Kind of, it seems like Columbia, Sony always really does it right when it comes to packaging and putting stuff together. Of course, they're probably one of the biggest record labels in the world, but they really know how to do it.
That is a superb one to grab for sure.
Thanks, man. I enjoy it.
All right, we're going to move into the modern era.
Oh, yeah.
The Foo Fighters' greatest hits. And, you know, it's kind of funny with this. I didn't have when I picked this up, I didn't have a bunch of Foo Fighters on vinyl. I'm like, I know I want the first one and maybe, you know, one other one. Yeah. I've since picked up a lot of Foo Fighters.
Yeah, they've kind of just last 2 years, you find a lot more of their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one of the reasons I picked this up, I got a really good deal on this at Aldi of all places. They had vinyl at one point, and it was like $15 or something.
That had to be like a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cover is really cool because these bolts.
Yeah, like rivets. They look.
Yeah, they're like rivets from the plane.
Yeah.
And they feel it's
very cool.
Yeah, it's really pretty neat.
And they've put like 4 albums out since they did this collection. Yeah, that's a good choice. And, you know, you got some cool pictures in here. Old picture of Dave. Yeah, that's just awesome. It's amazing that a guy can come from a band like Nirvana and kind of do the first Foo Fighters album basically all himself, and they're the biggest band in the world now.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, they really are.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously lost Taylor Hawkins last year, and we're yet to see who's going to replace him, but they're going to tour, and I think they're doing a new album. So they are a juggernaut.
And I think Dave realizes it, that, hey, we're now the kind of the most sought after band.
Yeah.
And they're known for their live shows. They have been since they started, even though Taylor Hawkins wasn't with the first incarnation.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a great band. Great. I don't like everything they do, but a greatest hits for these guys would be really, really good. I'm sure they'll update it with more.
I like everything they do, and this was just like
no brainer.
It was too good to pass up.
Yeah, and sometimes that feels good to just maybe you don't need it, but it's affordable, and why not?
And this cover, I just love the cover.
Yeah, the cover's very cool, and then the spine too. You can when records are identifiable from the spine, I really like that.
Yeah,
scratches an itch. That's a cool record. We've talked about David many times. He is a giant in the music industry. This is Legacy, the very best of David Bowie, and a greatest hits album by David, released 2016 on Sony Music Entertainment. But listen to these songs: Let's Dance, Ashes to Ashes, Under Pressure with Queen, which is cool to have on another album, not just Queen. Life on Mars, Changes, The Man Who Sold the World, Space Oddity, Starman, Ziggy, The Gene Genie, Rebel, Young Americans, Golden Years, Modern Love, China Girl, Fame, Sound and Vision, Heroes, Where Are We Now, and Lazarus, which was the last from his last album, Black Star. So
that's a great
it
collection.
covers the whole gamut, and I love the cover with kind of the
Young David.
Aladdin Sane
Yeah.
era, and then
Old David.
more older David. It's a great record. So you got the Aladdin Sane Lightning Bolt, and then the Black Star. It's very cool. I mean, if there's ever been an artist who may have had like a grand scheme for the beginning, middle, and end of his career, it was Bowie. And I love listening to him on record.
I love Bowie, but I think he is maybe one of the prime examples. He's almost made for greatest hits.
Yeah.
Because some of his albums, the deep cuts are not terrific. I mean, I like them, but there's some deep cuts that are just like
experimental.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You just get through them.
Yeah. I love everything that he does. I love having his stuff on vinyl, and there is a lot of it. But again, when Black Star came out, I mean, I pre-ordered that.
Oh, did you?
For the 2 months before it came out, and then he died 3 days later. Just such a bummer. But that thing sparkles in the sun. By the way, I don't know if I've told you, but
no.
At least the first pressing of Black Star sparkles. The vinyl does.
Ooh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So just another one of those little Easter eggs that David puts in there. And it's a great record. The hype sticker is square, which is approved. And the artwork, everything, this sounds great too.
And Bowie there are a couple of collections of Changes 1 and Changes 2.
Yep. And I have that. There's also an Unplugged record that just came out 3 years ago that I got, which was him unplugged in New York. So it's kind of cool hearing an artist like this, where there's a lot of production and a lot of pomp and circumstance, just boiling it down to an unplugged set. So I really miss him as an artist, because I just feel like he always shook things up. He sells a gazillion records and then just changes his persona and goes in another direction. It's cool. We were lucky to have him as long as we did. I
was so happy to get to see him at the Murat.
Oh man,
it was around 2008, 2009.
I didn't go to that show.
It was so good.
Yeah.
He was doing basically a celebration of his music.
Yeah.
So it was a greatest hits show.
That's awesome.
Which was fun because, that's what everybody wanted to see.
Yeah.
But it was at the Murat, so it's a smaller venue.
Oh,
I don't even know how many people the Murat holds.
what an opportunity.
But we had great seats and a balcony just overlooking the stage. Wow.
Yeah. That's so cool that you got to see that. What's next on your
next
hit list?
Next on the hit list. Oh,
see, that's a good one. You can use that one.
The Jam, Snap.
Nice.
And this is
Oh, Snap.
See, they don't even have collection, greatest hits.
Yeah.
It's a different name for that. And the Jam, and again, the Jam was one of those bands I started picking up when we got back into because I'd find the albums all over.
Yeah. That's cool.
But at the time, when I was in high school, they were a little harder to find Jam albums. And when I picked this up, I'm like, that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
but you have a lot of their stuff, right?
Yeah, I've got everything now. But I mean, it's just pretty much everything the Jam is known for.
That's cool. That's great. I need to familiarize myself with these guys.
I don't know, it's funny. I know the Jam, but I don't know what they're David Watts is a big song, which is a political song. Absolute Beginners was from the film. Absolute Beginners.
Okay.
Eating Rifles, Going Underground. I mean, that's entertainment. There's tons of, everything you'd want to hear from the jam is on this.
That's awesome. And it's 2 records, so
Yeah.
4 sides, and there's probably 28 songs on this.
Yeah, there's a buttload. When did
That's
this
awesome.
come out? This came out in '83.
Let's open the gatefold because it's a gatefold, and well, I like those. Oh, that's cool. Very cool. You
Very jazz-like.
Yeah, you got some black and white photos of them.
Well, they
in the
were
studio.
mods, so
Yeah, of course. Very cool. And that's another great thing about records is like this isn't a like 5-inch by 5-inch thing from a CD. You can open this up and you don't have to put your readers on to get familiar with it. It's very cool. Well, I'll have to definitely
dive into the jam.
Where did you?
I probably, when I look at the date when it came out, I probably really got this, maybe not high school, maybe college.
Yeah, but how did you get into this band? I mean,
Well, they were Beats.
Yeah.
So I was kind of into that movement. I
Yeah.
love that look and that music. So
Yeah, cool. And look at that you can see that from across the room. The jam.
Oh, yeah.
Snap. Very cool. Awesome. Love it. My next one is probably, it could be argued that it's not a greatest hits. I'm calling it a greatest hits because after having it's technically a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Beatles love, but it is kind of a greatest hits. And after our talk with Keith about the Beatles and the album, I've been a lot more cognizant about like the Beatles and the way that they really kind of intended for their music to be consumed. This is kind of a best of both worlds thing because not only are these remixes of these songs, but they kind of blend together like they do. I haven't seen the show, but in the show everything is kind of connected. And when this became available, I can't remember, maybe in 2018, I was like, yes, I'm absolutely getting that because I'd had it on CD and just the variation in the production and the mixes, and there's little things that sound different in this than the original albums, and it just feels like music that is meant to be together. So as opposed to bringing the red or the blue records, I brought this because it is kind of intentionally put together
To be
a freestanding
record.
And anything they do, I'm gonna get on vinyl and not scratch the hell out of it, Mr. Russell, because it's mine. But there's 4 sides to this, and there are some maybe less known songs on here. But I love the way like I Want You and Helter Skelter kind of run into each other on this. It's just such a different, we've all heard the Beatles songs on the radio.
So it's fun to hear them in a different take.
In a totally different light.
Yeah.
And it can be a song that you've heard a million times, but that small tweak of how it's produced or put together or how it blends in with another. I mean, it's amazing to me that some of these songs blend into each other, like Blackbird to Yesterday, and so cool. And obviously it's still in Vegas as a show.
Yeah.
And I think it has been for like 15 years
Yeah,
now.
it's been going a long time.
I need to actually see the show.
Yeah, that would be fun.
But I love this collection, and I, like I said, I had it on CD first, but listening to it on record is just super cool, other than having to flip sides, and the artwork too is very cool.
Yeah, I love the artwork.
And I know that the band, between George's estate, John's worked with Ringo and Paul, and everybody gave their blessing to this.
So it was done right.
Yeah it's just like we said in that Beatles episode. I mean, we've all heard this music time and time and time again. And I feel like it is part of our DNA. When you can take that music that you've heard that much and do something with it that just kind of piques your interest, it's a very big accomplishment. So if you get a chance to get it, grab it.
The it's funny. One of the top selling albums is the Beatles' number one.
And I have that too.
Yeah, we've talked about that one. So
and when I was going through my records today, I'm like, well, I'm bringing love. Because of that reason, it's like a greatest hits, but with a new twist. They should put that on a blurb on a hype sticker. I should write blurbs.
Marketing. You're a hype sticker man.
I'm a blurb guy.
That'd be a good title.
Blurb
Man.
Blurb is a great name for a band.
Well, yeah. We're just coming out with. If you're watching or listening to this show, we've had a bunch of band names.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
pay attention.
I have a buddy that has a list of about 2,000 of them. So
that's good. Well, now he's going to have 2005.
What's next? I don't even know how many we've done.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. We'll just kind of keep it in our typical time frame. I'm going to stay kind of unusual with this one. And I'm going to cop the same plea that Jay just did. So this is Dow Jones and the Industrials. And it's their collection of tunes from 79 to 81.
Now tell us about this band, because
So this band was from Lafayette, and they're on a it also includes the famous Hoosier Hysteria.
that was half them,
and half the Gizmos.
right.
And so it's collected here also, which I have that album as well.
This is a famous record.
Yes. And it was Family Vineyard is a local label.
Mm-hmm. And this is one that is sought after by collectors.
This was there are quite a few out there because, as you can imagine, Dow Jones in the Industrials don't have a huge following. But, I mean, local people who follow this band are love this band.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a mixtape a friend of mine gave me in high school. He was at Purdue, and I wore that thing out. It had this band and a bunch of other bands on it. It's by far, if I had that on vinyl, that would be one of my most treasured vinyls.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I love that the title of the record is on the bottom here with that old like tape that you can, like you'd
the
make
old label tape,
label maker tape. That just looks so cool.
Yeah.
And I like how it almost has an OBI strip on it.
Yeah,
on the
it
front.
really does.
What do these guys sound like?
Devo.
Yeah.
Early Devo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as close as anything that I can, find to say, hey.
Yeah. So kind of.
It's
kind
experimental electronic music.
Kind of neo-punk type. That's cool. That's awesome, man. It's always great to have records to talk about that you've had as a part of your life for like 40 years?
Yeah. And when this record came out, people who were part of the, those 80s underground punk scenes, everybody wanted this.
That's awesome. Well, I hear people asking for it at the record shows all the time. It's just, around here.
Yeah.
And, in other parts of the country, you've got bands that have releases like that too, that are just, infamous.
And I'm not even sure how I think it came up maybe on a deal I saw, and I'm like, oh yeah. It's one of those things you just, sometimes you get those notices and it's like, yes, I'll take that.
Yeah. Like there's no thought.
It was one I'd been looking for, and then it came up, and it was priced really well too.
Like recently?
Within the past 2 years.
Oh, okay. So did you have it originally, or is
No.
this? Oh, okay. But you've been a fan of the band for ever.
Because this was a collection that was re-released in what? Tiny type. 2016, I think.
Shit, that's like what, 7 years ago now?
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's awesome, man. I'll have to give them a listen too. We should do like
We keep talking about a listening party, but yeah, I'm not sure a lot of people could make it through the whole album.
there's a lot of songs on this.
There are a lot of songs on it, but I mean, it's like that early Devo, when they did the Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
I can't get no satisfaction. It sounds a lot like that.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. And you still got the shrink on it.
Yeah, I don't know why I kept that on there. I have listened to it, but
yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, I think the last one I'm going to talk about is one that I just recently got.
Ooh, yeah.
It's Sex Pistols, the original recordings. Yeah, this just came out, and I have never had Nevermind the Bollocks, so I figured, what the hell? Sex Pistols, the original recordings. This just came out this year. I love the square hype sticker. New 20-track 2LP retrospective. And it's got everything you'd want. Pretty Vacant, God Save the Queen, New York, Something Else, Anarchy in the UK, I'm Not Your Stepping Stone, it's a great cover. Holidays in the Sun, that's another one of my favorites by them. Substitute is a cover of the Who song. And then My Way, which is another popular cover.
Which was big in the film.
Yeah.
Sid and Nancy.
Yeah. I've still never seen that whole film.
Oh.
Good.
Yeah, well, Gary Oldman is so terrific in everything.
Oh,
and
he's
brilliant in that.
Yeah. And so basically I saw that this was coming out, and it was a pretty decent deal on it. 2 records, 20 songs. And again, like we were saying before, a great way to dip your toe into a band that you may not be like fully invested in.
Yeah.
And
well, you don't have to get too invested in the Sex Pistols.
No.
There's not much out
right.
there.
There's not much out there, but there are certain songs by them that have been covered by so many bands.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the way they were introduced to me. Holidays in the Sun, Skid Row did a version of that on their Beside Ourselves B-side record, and that was a great cover of that. And they're just an interesting band. They've got so much infamy and so much respect built up around them. And like you said, they basically did one album.
Yeah.
And it's cool to still have that mystique. A lot of bands are kind of mysterious before they get famous, they become famous, and that mystique kind of just evaporates. But I think it's still there with the Sex Pistols.
Oh yeah, because I mean their flame burned so small.
Yeah.
And they pissed off the record company. It's just everything, you know.
Yeah, you got to love a band like that.
Wait, I didn't even look. Is EMI on there? No. So that's funny. They omitted the record company rant.
Yeah.
EMI.
Yeah. It's
that's really pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do bands like this, do people like him, do they have as much disdain for the record business as they will have you believe? Or is it just kind of an act?
Well, I think with them it was genuine.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any act.
Yeah, but
I think it was pretty genuine.
But we wouldn't be talking about them if it weren't for the record company.
True.
But 45 years later.
Yeah, they didn't see it that way.
Right. It's just such an interesting story, and I need to familiarize myself more.
Well, and it's it's a little bit like we've talked about with Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, because he definitely hated the record company.
Yeah, but from a different perspective.
Yes.
I mean, he could do everything that the record company could do except distribute the record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These guys, they're just a bunch of punks. And it's just so interesting to me, that era, like in the late 70s with the Ramones in the US and the Sex Pistols, and then you had the LA punk scene popping up, Bad Brains,
Yeah.
and all of those bands, X. It's just crazy how it converged, but in different areas, geographically in different areas,
Yeah.
and how similar and different all of those bands were, right?
Very true.
And it didn't last that long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're endlessly fascinating for sure. But I'll get Nevermind the Bollocks sometimes because I that's kind of one of those records I think you have to have in your collection.
I kind of want this now that I see My Ways on it.
Yeah.
But I've got My Way from the soundtrack.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
the Sid and Nancy soundtrack.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that's a great version of that. Who would have thought that they'd do a good version of a Sinatra tune?
That's a you haven't seen the film, but that's a big moment in the film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I mean, Gary Oldman. We're watching Slow Horses now. I don't know. It's on. I think it's Apple TV Plus that it's on.
Ooh.
But it's MI5, so it's like British spy.
I like
Stuff.
MI5 stuff.
And he is so fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, everything he does, he can be in a terrible movie, but he's great.
Yeah.
So, what a great dude to play that part. Too.
Yeah, he was perfect for it.
Kind of, right at the right time.
Yeah.
Man, it's been fun. Like reminiscing back through these greatest hits albums and songs.
Yeah, and I know we both have several more we could talk about.
Oh,
but
we can do another greatest hits. It's interesting. The approach that I take with vinyl is so much less completist than it was with CDs.
yeah, CDs. I'm the same way.
I mean, with CDs, you had CD singles, you had import stuff,
Yeah.
and there were so many songs in different places. And if I got really into an artist, man, I would look for those imports. And having worked at a record store, I could order them. And with vinyl, the OCD in me wants to be a completist, but the wallet can't handle
Yeah,
that.
how many rabbit holes are you got to pick the rabbit hole you're going to go down.
Right. You sort of maybe aim a little more closely.
Yeah.
And don't spend as much. For that reason. I mean, CDs got to a point. I mean, now you can get used CDs pretty cheaply, but like I said, on Amazon occasionally, I'll be looking for something on vinyl. And because of the price, it's like $19, $20, $22. I'm like, oh, that's not bad for a record. That's not the record. That's the CD.
CD, yeah.
So they're going back up, and they're coming back. I never got rid of my CDs. So maybe we'll be doing a CD Ventures show.
I don't see it happening.
I love the way that CDs sound, and I love the clarity and some of the details that you can hear in them, like the Beatles remasters when those came out in 2009.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff that you could hear that you never heard before. The Led Zeppelin CD box set that
I've
came
got
out
that,
in 91 or so.
Yeah. That's such a good box set.
So great. And you heard stuff from their remastering that you never heard before.
Yeah.
Like Bonham's squeaky bass drum pedal.
Yeah.
But it's just a totally different experience between CD and record. And now, being the age that we're at, we've spent so much time with both. I don't have a favorite necessarily, but the experience, the size of the record, the tactile, taking it out, and the care that you have to use, that really appeals to me.
Yeah. I probably have more greatest hits on CD because I was buying stuff that I had on vinyl.
Right.
And I'm like, I just want the best because I've already got this on.
Right. Now we're on the other side of it,
Yeah.
where we're replacing stuff that we had on CD with the vinyl version.
Yeah.
With a lot of these records, they never came out on vinyl, like that Van Halen thing that's coming out
Yeah.
on RSD. It was never released on vinyl. It's just weird to think about that, right?
Yeah.
As steeped as we are in this vinyl stuff, there's a whole slew of stuff that's never been released on vinyl. And they know that.
They know that because we're caught in the matrix.
Yeah.
The music matrix.
We took the blue and the red pills.
We took them both.
Well, we can't thank everybody enough for coming along and joining us on this trip down memory lane. We've really had a great time putting these shows together. We want to thank Keith Toombs and Jacob Hansen for helping out with the video side of the show. And we want to remind you to go to our YouTube page because we are releasing more shows, more past shows that we get edited and put together. And we'd love for you to like, subscribe, review, write a haiku about it. Haiku. 17 syllables, don't forget. But we really want to thank all of these people who have gotten behind this show and helped us out with producing it, distributing it, and just getting the word out. And it means the world to us that so many of you are still listening and tuning in and starting to communicate with us on social media for ideas. And, we're trying to post on there more often.
And before you wrap up, haikus.
Haikus.
I have a CD box set with a bunch of haikus from Jack Kerouac.
Do you really?
Yes.
A CD box set?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's CDs. I really want the vinyl box set.
Well, bring it in next time we do a show, and we'll
Jack Kerouac.
We'll just talk about it a little bit. There's so much joy to be had in this sickness, like Wheels and I refer to it as, and it's almost overwhelming to me sometimes how much music has always been like a very big focal point in my life, from being a musician to just a fan to going to as many shows as I did when I was a kid. When I was a young teenager, my parents were like, yeah, sure. And at the time, I didn't have the knowledge to realize how special that was. But part of the reason that I love doing this show so much is because we get into these discussions and these memories just start flooding back. Or if you pull that record out that you got back then. I have a few records, from when I was a kid still. An AC/DC record, Fly on the Wall, that I've had since I was, I don't know when that came out, 84. I was 10. There's so much packed into this that brings joy. And I just can't thank everybody enough for supporting us and allowing us to continue doing it. I mean, we've almost done 50 episodes of it. And that's just absolutely insane for me to believe. If you would have gone back 4 years and said, hey, you guys are going to do 50 of these, I would have been like,
we'll see.
I don't know. So I think that speaks to how much we love it, how much it means to us, and how much the support of everybody listening means to the show too. So we want to thank you all and share those show ideas and just interact with us on social media and tell us what you think. And we'll just keep doing this for another 50 episodes. So for Wheels, I'm Jay, and we'll see you all the next time around.